Hi,
How are you?
I'm tired.
I bet you are.
Yeah.
I bet you are. That's crazy. Welcome back to the corner, boys and girls, children of all ages. How are you? Good to see you guys. We're going to do things obviously a little bit different tonight. We are in not just Curmudgeon's Corner's headquarters, but what we affectionately call the compound. I'm pretty far away from the computer, so this is going to be a little less intimate with you guys and a little bit more intimate with our guest tonight. I can't really do a whole lot of teasing because we're in the studio together, but we just had the ability to go out to Las Vegas and spend the week together for SEMA. And we're going to be able to, this is, by the way, for those of you that don't know, this guy is my father, and he is the OG curmudgeon. So everything that I learned about being a curmudgeon, I learned from him. Enthusiasts, Corey, Mary, Rick Smith. I'm going to try to read your guys' comments off of my phone because I obviously am nowhere near nowhere near the PC, but I'm not going to be able to highlight you guys and your comments and things of that nature. So if I miss one of your comments, just keep at it. You know, pull a Titan Tim and just keep repeating the question until you get it answered. Keith Firebird says hello to you, by the way. Oh. So without a whole lot of, I'm gonna pseudo apologize ahead of time. This has been the week. I mean, it has pushed everybody to the limit. Everybody that was part of SEMA, everybody that was part of the House of Rags booth, we are tired. We have had the most intense 36 hours. And so I'm hoping to get the most out of this episode as possible. But both he and I were taking a power nap just before the show because we are like, I guess as the Hobbit would say, we feel like butter that has been spread over too much bread. So, hello, Colonel Burkett, says Rick Smith. Apple juice is flowing. Yes, the Colonel poured us a couple of apple juices, and we are going to get started. So without further ado, let me try to, from here, run the mental floss and see if I can figure out how to do it. We'll get the mental floss out of the way, and then we'll get right down to who the Colonel is and what he thought of SEMA and all of that.
Here. Lay down. Go lay down. Come on.
There we go. Share.
Perfect like all metaphors. In that huddle is a bunch of folks that are black, brown, white, red, yellow, liberal, conservative, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu. We are slim, fat, short, tall, fast, and slow. We are analytical people, and we're impulsive people. We have some of the finest men on earth, and heaven knows we got a few rounders. We have been through the fires of Bear Bryant and Bo Schembechler or some such coach that knows exactly how to extract every ounce of our energy. Americans see all that and they resonate with it. They crave it. They take it and us into their hearts. The men who earn a place in the huddle have experienced the miracle of team. The training camp experience is unbelievable. It is day after day, week after week, 2 a day, 3 a day practices in the heat, often in 14 pounds of equipment. Many drop out, numbers thin, and everybody thinks about quitting. Trust me, everybody. For those who do stay, there is the opportunity to participate in the greatest team sport ever devised. It is the only sport in which every player needs every teammate on every play just to survive. We learn ever so slowly that our differences do not matter in the huddle. When we trudge in after each interminable workout, we know that sweat smells about the same on everybody's body. When we get busted in the mouth, that blood that trickles is the same color. Everybody's tired. Everybody's hurt. It is in this process that the miracle occurs. Men who've been raised to hate each other's guts become brothers. I've seen racists reformed. I've seen the most unlikely hugs after victories or losses. I've seen inner city kids invite country boys from the mountains to go home with them for Thanksgiving dinner, and I've seen those invitations accepted and reciprocated, thus changing parents' lives. Our players become brothers for life. It is what America is supposed to be, could be, might be in our best dreams. The football huddle is a metaphor for our culture, imperfect like all metaphors. In that huddle is a bunch of folks that are black, brown.
Harder than it looks. Doing it from back here. All right, I gotta move it. Sorry. Super unprofessional, but again, we don't have a full staff. It's just us. All right. Okay. All right. Anyway, so I played that little clip as it pertains to what we just came through over at SEMA. The House of Rags. I know you guys are big fans of the House of Rags, and you watch their videos all week long. And that the House of Rags was really able to pull all of us together. And at no point did I feel like there was any kind of competition, or that we were going up against each other, or that somebody else was getting more of the limelight than somebody else. We really all were there as a family. We were all there as a huddle. And it was really something amazing to see everybody come together. I got to meet some of the greatest people I've met. I'm especially talking about Mile Deep, those guys from the UK, Craig and Tim and Jody, just absolutely amazing human beings and people. And I got to know them and laugh with them and share, and they shared their marketing with me, and I shared my marketing with them, and their successes and their failures and my successes and their failures. And it was really something to just see, two people that should technically be, they're Coke and I'm Pepsi, or I'm Pepsi and they're, just basically just care about each other. It was really, really a lot of fun. So anyway, all that being said, I get to be here in the compound with the OG curmudgeon himself, my dad, Rick Hawkeye Burkett. Thanks for coming to the show.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I really didn't have much of a choice.
It's true.
You-
It's true.
You strong-armed me. Right?
All of that being said, we are extremely tired, so bear with us, especially if, like, all of a sudden the show just kind of goes and scene, because we've been up for, it's got to be 36 hours now,
40 hours or so.
40 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. For those of you that are playing at home, the FAA came into full swing this week, and so our connecting flight from Las Vegas to Detroit, and then Detroit back to the Pittsburgh area, the Detroit to Pittsburgh got canceled, and so we could obviously we were planning on taking the red eye from Vegas and getting back into Pittsburgh like 8 a.m. and then taking a real rest and then getting up and seizing the day. But unfortunately, the FAA had something other in mind. And so when we got to Detroit, we ended up renting a car and just driving home to Pittsburgh. So we actually got home before the new flight
Would have
even taken off. So it was pretty wild. Thanks, Daryl. Appreciate it. So all of that being said, let's get to know a little bit about who is Hawkeye. And I know that so on Curmudgeon's Corner, we do a little Batman origin story. Let's not go, well, you know what, where are you from originally?
Well, I grew up in Illinois. I was a flatlander. Spent the first 18 years of my life in Illinois.
Okay.
Came from a good, solid family, extended family, and so I had a lot of support that way.
Okay.
I think I was the first to be able to go to college, which was a real privilege that I had. and it went downhill from there. Yeah.
When did you know that you wanted to be a Marine?
Oh, actually, that's a good question, Aaron. By the way, thanks for having me on your show today.
Sure.
This is all new for me.
Yeah, I know.
I don't follow podcasts. I don't even know really, the extent of podcasts out there. But to answer your question, I would have to say about the first tour into my career as a Marine, I knew I wanted to be a Marine. Up until that time, it was an experiment. It was just the reason that I got into the Marine Corps was a program that the Marines were offering in 1966. If you remember, there was the Vietnam War was
I
on.
think I've heard of it.
The draft was on. You could be taken out of college. Your number could be called, and you'd leave college. And so the Marines had a program at that time that allowed you to stay in school if you signed up to be an officer candidate, went to officer candidate school in the summertime, maintain a C average, and at the end of your college, when you graduated from college, you were deferred, and when you graduated from college, you were offered a commission in the Marine Corps, or you get your old draft status back. And so that was the impetus for me really to sign up and become a Marine. There was always a mystique about being a Marine, and so as soon as I've often said you could take the biggest yard bird in the Marine Corps. By that I mean, and I'm using a nice term, a guy that's always screwing up. His uniform was always screwed up. He's always late for formation. He's always complaining about what has to be done or who has to do it. But as soon as he gets out of the Marine Corps, oh yeah, I was a Marine. Yeah, he's real proud. Puffs out. He wants to be part of that mystique of the Marine Corps.
I'd be honest. I throw out the fact that you and my brother Eric were both Marines. Oh my, and I wear the hat, the Marine Corps, this hat that you guys gave me. Even though I was in the Army, it doesn't mean anything when it to that, like you said, the mystique of being a Marine.
Well, there's a certain brotherhood. Yeah, and I don't. It's Vandergrift that said something to the effect. There's no man who was in the Marine Corps, and at that time that was 1945 or 46 that he said that. Vandergrift was commandant of the Marine Corps, and awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his defense of Guadalcanal. But he said something like, "There's no man who's in the Marine Corps who retires from it who hasn't been really touched by it and has an appreciation for it." And he gave that speech it's called the bended knee speech that he gave before Congress, but that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in college, you're doing the OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Mm-hmm.
You graduate from college. How does one, so for those of you playing at home, you were a pilot. How does one become a pilot, a Marine aviator?
Mm-hmm.
And then, because from what I understand, there is definitely two distinct paths. There's infantry or ground pounders in the Marine Corps, and then there's aviators, and they're
right. Well, when I first signed up for the Marine Corps, my aspiration, if you will, would have been to become a Marine officer, infantry officer, a gravel cruncher. Okay, and again, you somewhere in that 4 years at school, I heard that there was Marine aviation. So when the recruiter came down to college, I said, "Hey, Kenny, what's the story with Marine aviation?" Oh, he says, "Oh yeah, we have Marine aviation. Marines units are task organized for whatever the mission is. They may pull logistics support from one place. They'll pull artillery support from another place, aviation support from another place, and the infantry support from somewhere else. And so it becomes a task force, if you will. So I said to the guy, hey, what's the story with aviation and how do I get into it? Well, you have to take a battery test. You got to pass a flight physical. Again, never had been in an airplane before in my life. I said, well, I'll take these tests. When can I do it? He said, if you got about 4 hours right now, we'll give them to you. And I sat down and took these tests. Later on, went and got a flight physical, had a flight physical at Glenview Naval Air Station. And from that point, once I was commissioned, then I headed to Pensacola. They needed cannon fodder. And I did not go to the basic school where Marines officers learn all the different aspects of being a Marine officer, leadership, the legal aspects, all the weaponry, etc. I learned that as I was kind of like a 60-day wonder, and I learned that later on through correspondence courses. But yeah, I went directly to Pensacola once I graduated from college. My mother pinned the bars on my shoulder.
Is that right?
At graduation.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So again, also from just being able to be a part of Eric's story arc, I know that when you go to aviator school, you based upon your tests, you can either cycle out and not be a pilot at all, or you have a certain score which puts you into helicopters, and then you have a certain score that puts you into to planes, or I guess
Fixed wing.
Fixed wing.
Fixed wing.
Yeah.
Which would include jet fighters or C-130s.
Okay.
Or a transport.
So how did you tell everybody a little bit about which vehicle you ended up piloting, and then how did you get to that? Like, how did you get to, like, for example, I knew a guy that was like from age 5, he wanted to be a Cobra pilot, and he was going to stop at nothing to be a Cobra helicopter pilot. How did you get to where you wanted to be?
I would say to you again, from Proverbs, in a man's heart, he plans his own way, but the Lord guides his footsteps. And that is definitely true in my story. I really didn't know, like I just said, I had never been in an airplane before. Before I graduated from college, the selection officer came down in a small T-34, landed at the little airport outside of Monmouth. And there were a couple of us there, and he took us up for a ride in this T-34. And that was really the first time I had been up in a small airplane, and I got to make some turns and climbs and things like that. Just a minimal taste for it. Okay, so that's true what you say concerning your score. Maybe directs you where you want to go. Your flight grades, because there's a ground school there and there's flying grades as well. But you have to remember the Marine Corps. It's the Marine Corps needs come first. If they need 4 helicopter pilots, it doesn't matter what your score is. That's first served. Now, if you have the high score of that graduating class, you can get your pick usually. So that's how that's determined. I was not a natural pilot. I had great ground school grades for some reason, but my flying skills were pretty average. But when I graduated from flight school, having soloed and etc., and things have changed now. Things have changed a lot. You have to go, when you go to Pensacola, you already have your private pilot's license before you ever go down there.
Really?
Yeah, that's a standard. While you're in school, they're paying for you to get your private pilot's license. But at that time, I graduated from college, went to Pensacola, went through all the ground school, went through all the basic training as far as SEER survival school, water survival school, all those things, and then flying, and came out with pretty much an overall average grade. But the Marine Corps needed 1 jet pilot on that graduating class, and I was the only guy graduating. So
there it is.
that's how I got to be
That's some divine intervention right there.
Yeah.
I've been dying to ask this question for 51 years.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not 51 years, but as soon as I really started to pay attention, so like the last 5 years,
Mhm.
I was told that you don't get to pick your call sign, that your call sign is given to you by your peers. How does one get the coolest call sign, Hawkeye? Like honestly, that like how I mean, like Eric is Trainwreck, and there's no doubt in my mind why he was called Trainwreck.
Right.
And I remember growing up in El Toro, California, and meeting people like Dino Cicerelli, he liked to call himself the Machine, but you guys all called him Pink.
Yeah.
So, like, how does one get called? How did you get Hawkeye?
I really couldn't answer that, except that was a name again. From my childhood, the leather stocking tails, etc. I've always been kind of a woodsman, a hunter, and sort of it just was it. And I think there are hops that you get to lead. There are sorties that you get to lead in flight school. Okay, and you choose the name of that flight. In other words, it would be Hawkeye flight. Okay, and so that was the name that I chose, and it just kind of stuck. Now, later on, I think that it became appropriate. Certainly, the character, the caricature of Hawkeye from MASH is the same kind of. I won't say just continual slap happy, but that's kind of my nature. I'm kind of I like fun. I like to poke fun. I like to hook and jab in the ready room. And at that time, I really did have good eyesight, and I think it just kind of stuck.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't answer to anything else, so that was another clue.
I come from a long line of smart ass sarcasm.
Yeah. Well,
That it definitely. So Adamo has commented a couple of times. Evening, everyone. Hello, Aaron and Richard. He told me not to call him Mr. Burkett multiple times this week at SEMA. It was an absolute honor to meet him. Please say hello, Aaron.
Right.
So
hello back.
Hello back. Okay, so my earliest memories, if I go way back into the farthest recesses of my brain, I have 3 solid memories. My earliest memories were of Pensacola, Florida. And I would say age 3, so we're looking at like 1977. There was the plane that had crashed in the bay of Pensacola, and you could see the tail sticking out of the water.
An airliner, I think it was a 747 airliner that crashed. Yeah.
Wow. So that's one memory. The second memory is you putting me in the cockpit of your jet, giving me a bag of Cheetos to eat.
From the Gita.
Yeah.
From the little Gita that was there at the squadron. Yeah.
So and I remember sitting in your cockpit eating Cheetos, age 3. It was just an absolute.
Now, just for the viewers, a little bit of as a new would-be aviator, you start at Pensacola, and that's where you learn to fly. And then, based upon your flight grades, you might go to Meridian or Kingsville or Beeville, or you might go to Whiting Field, etc., to go into the various either fixed wing or rotary wing flight programs. What you remember, Aaron, you remember me coming back to Pensacola as a flight instructor.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'd already been in the squadron. I've been in 2 gun squadrons by that time. And then it was my turn to rotate back and become an instructor. And so we were assigned to Pensacola. A great story. Pensacola was the bachelor's dream. I mean, you're on the beach. It's just a wonderful playground. And so at that stage of your career as a bachelor pilot, you are trying to get yourself back to Pensacola. I didn't want to go to Pensacola. Karen and I didn't want to go. We wanted to go back to Meridian. That's where I went through my jet flight school. No, the monitor couldn't possibly get us to Meridian. We had to go to Pensacola. Okay. So I go to Pensacola. I go to the charm school when we first get there, which is how to teach flying, how to teach communications, etc. And there are other guys that come into that school from Meridian and from Texas, and they go, and they're bachelors, and they go, hey, how did you get orders to Pensacola? Well, I said,
I drew the short straw.
No, you say you have to act like you don't want it. Okay. And that's exactly how it happened. That's why we got to Pensacola.
That's fantastic.
But that was a good, those are good memories. Those were good memories. I had, putting you in the cockpit and you buying you a hot dog or whatever, a bag of Cheetos there from the Key Dunk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think from there we went to Quantico. I could be wrong.
No, that's correct.
All right. So we went from Pensacola to Quantico at the crossroads of the Marine Corps, and I think I did kindergarten there. We were at the apartments. You were a captain, I would say, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there we went to Springfield, Virginia. And I think you were reassigned to the Pentagon.
No, headquarters Marine Corps, which is right next door to the Pentagon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't flying to that. Like, you weren't part of a squadron at that point. We were assigned to
No, right. I think one of the things that, you have to remember as far as philosophy of the Marine Corps, a couple of things. One, every Marine is a rifleman. I just happen to be flying airplanes.
Right.
Two, Marine officers have various billets. Some of them are in their military occupational specialty, which was an A4 at that time for me. But there's also staff duties. Somebody has to run the staff. Somebody has to run the planning and the personnel management, etc. And so that's what happens at Headquarters Marine Corps. So my next duty assignment was
real quick to just kind of to backtrack real fast. You said the plane the jet that you flew was an A4. What exactly is the A4?
The A4 Skyhawk has been around since I think the first prototype was about 1951. The Marine Corps was the last to have them after the Forstall accident. They took the A4s basically off of the carriers out of the Navy and replaced them with A7s. But the Marine Corps kept them and actually enhanced them with the A4M, a larger engine, an ARBS laser spot tracker, and some technical stuff there. But it's a air to ground, primarily air to ground. It supports the man on the ground.
Well, then, if you don't mind me interrupting, look, I believe the A4 was used in the movie Top Gun, 1984. Jester and Merlin, that was the smaller plane that went up against the F-14s. If they're primarily air to ground, what are they doing going up against them?
Well, they were used as an adversary simply because their power, that profile, and the profile pretty much matches a MiG-21. Okay, and at that time, that was one of the major opponents that we had. So that's why they would use. That's just an adversary, different type of an aircraft, a different type of a platform. That's
okay.
That's what that was.
And speaking of Top Gun, all right. So we went to Springfield, and from Springfield, you got transferred back to El Toro, California,
right?
Which was the air base in Southern California. And I believe it was during that time that you got your squadron was assigned to Red Flag, which is the Marine Corps' Top Gun, correct?
No.
All right.
As usual, Aaron, you've got that crosswire there.
I mean, I really wasn't paying attention much as a kid, as you know.
Okay. But a part of that's right. Part of you that you got that. Okay. First of all, the A4, even though it was used as an adversary in Top Gun and is used as an adversary Right now, there was a squadron that was privately owned that was used as an adversary squadron. I mean, you have to have somebody that you got to go up and fight, and so
Sure.
it's nice to have a different kind of aircraft, so that, because there are different flying characteristics. Our main mission, however, was air to ground, close air support, CAS. And it was always my belief that you could be the best fighter pilot in the world and you can go and shoot down every MiG in the sky. But when the enemy tank commander is having lunch in your gee-dunk, again, you lost the war. So it's air to ground, it's boots on the ground, and you're supporting that, interdicting, etc.
Okay.
So Top Gun is the fighter school. In the air to ground role, it's MOTS 1 out of Yuma, where we teach the tactics based upon what the Israelis experienced in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. Things have changed since then, obviously, but those were the tactics that I was familiar with. Those are the tactics that we practice. Red flag is a if you remember, you probably don't, but if you remember as a child, about every quarter, when I was in a gun squadron, we went somewhere for 2 or 3 weeks, deployed. It could have been to the desert at the 29 Palms. It could be Luke Air Force Base. It could be Nellis, and that's where Red Flag was. Red Flag was designed and is a very sophisticated at that time. Very sophisticated. I don't know why we're talking all about aviation and me, but it was a very sophisticated training. It was to teach you how to get through those first few days of actual combat. And just to relate a little story to you, the very first mission that we flew, first of all, every aircraft is identified electronically with a pod that is placed in that airplane, so that they can track you on a big screen and then come back in the debrief and see how you did, both from a low level view as well as God's eye view of looking down and see where all these airplanes are going. And they can stop the film and say, hey, what does aircraft number 4 look like right now? What does he see? And it was sophisticated. I'm sure it's more so even today, where they would stop that and they could see the pilot's view of what he saw out of his cockpit. And it might be another airplane coming across in front of him. And they would give him a probability of kill of that aircraft, for example. Okay, so what this taught me on the very first mission, my wingman and I flew a mission and we put bombs on, hit the tanker, flew the route correctly, got in under the radar, we thought, put bombs across the target within 10 seconds of our target time, and then came back and we were glad handing each other, and then went into the debrief. What did we see? About 30 seconds or so before we had bomb release, an F-15, or it was an F-5, came floating in out of the sky somewhere and came in right on our tail and had 2 unobserved kills, me and my wingman.
Aye.
So again, what that taught me at that time was that's my most vulnerable time. Getting to the target is, my eyes are all, my head's on a swivel. I'm looking, I'm making corrections to the land navigation, etc. But once I get into that target area and I'm within a minute, my whole scan changes. I'm doing switchology with putting the bombs on and getting ready to make that run. And so I lost situational awareness.
Wow.
And so that was a great teaching. Great teaching.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what Red Flag is, by the way.
So again, my brain changes channels. You were also, this is just bragging rights at this point. You were part of a great, what's the word I'm looking for? Legacy. VMA 214 Black Sheep.
Yeah.
For those of you playing at home that don't know, VMA 214 Black Sheep, the Baba Black Sheep was an actual TV show. It was a. Well, you tell the story.
Well, it was a squadron that stood up under Boyington in World War II. in the South Pacific. But I was in other squadrons that have great legacies too. The 311 Tomcats.
Yeah.
Okay, they fought in the South Pacific. They also fought in Korea. And two guys in those squadrons. One of them, his name was John Glenn, and the other one, and the other one was his wingman, Ted Williams.
Really,
the baseball player. Yeah. So I mean, there's great stories all throughout.
Yeah. Which, by the way,
so
was
Joe
one of the best parts of growing up around you was being able to like glean some of these stories here.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Okay. Remember the air show when we lived at El Toro?
I certainly do.
Okay. And where we took pictures of, we had Polaroid cameras.
Mm-hmm.
This whole squadron, we set up a static display and allowed people to get up in the cockpit, painted their name on the side of the airplane, and took their picture in that airplane.
Yeah.
Made hundreds of dollars for our coffee mess, to keep it going.
For sure.
Like that. But I'm sure you remember that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I remember
we burned up, I don't know, 4 or 5 Polaroid cameras because we just couldn't keep up with the demand.
The irony of that day for me, looking back on it now, is that I was able. You bought me a inflatable F-16, which I don't believe is in the Marine Corps.
That's good.
Yeah, so I got it was like the greatest toy of all time was this inflatable F-16, and it's not even a Marine jet. Yeah, I remember that we've been to several of your air shows, some that you've actually participated in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last one that you participated in, it was the one that
was the old tour.
Yeah.
Oh,
remember the guy.
Well, I was actually overseas. Our squadron was overseas when that happened. But yeah, that was at the El Toro air show, where just a little too.
He was at F-18, right?
At F-18.
Yeah, he did a kind of a barrel roll and was coming out of it a little too low and ended up smacking his tail.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen some stuff. You've seen some stuff. It's incredible. All right, so the story arc. Again, we're in California. This is going to be mid 80s. So we're looking at like, if I'm doing the best part about moving every 2 years for me is that I can really hone in on exactly where I was and what I was doing based upon where we were living. So I know that when we went to California, I was in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we did 4 years in California. And then my 9th grade year, we went back to Quantico. But we're in California. So this would have been 88. And they were phasing out the A4 and they were bringing in the new AV-8B Harrier jump jet. Mm-hmm. And your squad was going to go to Yuma, Arizona to refit, because I guess they were mothballing the A4 at that point. So that would have been 88.
On the West Coast, they were.
Yeah. On the West Coast.
That was 88 that happened.
Yep.
Okay.
So at that point, you basically said, I don't want to. And that
I don't want to what?
Go to you didn't want to relearn a new jet. You didn't want to do the Harriers.
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
I mean,
well, how did we? So instead of your whole unit went to Yuma, and we ended up going back to Quantico.
Well, yeah, that's a very simplistic viewpoint of it. That was VMA 331. I'm sorry, VMA 311. Okay, stood down as an A4 squadron at El Toro. The Marine Corps was moving. We were moving to Miramar and we were moving to El Toro. I mean, to Yuma, Arizona. So one squadron's VMA 311 stood down and stood back up at Yuma as a AV-8B squadron. The AV-8s are a great aircraft. The VSTOL, I mean, that brought that whole AV-8A. Lost several good friends flying that. It was a very difficult aircraft to fly. Every prototype is. The AV-8B made some massive improvements. The Argentinas proved how effective they could be. Not the Argentinas, but in the Falkland Wars, the Brits proved how effective those aircraft could be against the Argentinians. And so a VSTOL aircraft that can take off and vertically and do its mission is a tremendous asset. You kind of got me in this mode of talking about,
Yeah.
you got me in this mode of talking with my hands. I mean,
Good. That's
okay.
Go for it.
But to correct you, my next assignment was again back to Quantico. It's not because I didn't want to make that transition with 311. My time in the gun squadron was up, and I was due to be a staff officer at headquarters Marine Corps, or at that particular time we were standing up the university, the Marine Corps University at Quantico. And so I was sent to the Warfighting Center at Quantico as the close air support desk. And so that's why we moved there. Not because I didn't want to. Actually, I was slated before I got out of the Marine, decided to get out of the Marine Corps, slated for F-18s.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, that's probably going to mean another 10 years if I refit.
Well, that's true. That's true. But you don't want to know what the real reason was?
Sure.
Yeah. You would have been in 3 different high schools.
Yeah. Are you going to put this on me?
Yeah. I got out of the Marine Corps because you would have been in 3. And I know how that would have really affected your psyche,
Well, I mean, for the most part, the damage was already done at that point.
Yeah.
I did 2 years at Quantico High, and then and that was my junior or my freshman sophomore year, and then I did my junior senior year after you retired here in Northwestern PA. So.
But that was a consideration. That wasn't the entire consideration, Eric.
So let's
Yeah.
if you want to just pivot on that. That's a great pivot point. Up here in Northwestern PA, you have had the property of the compound for some time, and it was before you even really got really deep into your Marine Corps career that you had said that you had always wanted to, when you were done serving, you would want to come up here and be a farmer. Like, where does that come from? That desire, those are two opposite ends of the spectrum, if you ask me. To like a peaceful working with the land kind of person versus a guy that's, part of the most elite fighting force on the planet.
Well, again, I go back to Proverbs, in a man's heart, he plans his way. Well, early on in our marriage, Karen and I purchased the property where you're sitting right now. And that was always kind of our home base, our center of gravity. And so when we had a leave or vacation time, we would come back here. It's very close to where your grandma and grandpa lived. And so we would come back here, and that would become our center of gravity.
We're going to segue real quick. I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
The first one is Jerry would like to know, what year were you in El Toro had a buddy run the simulator in 86 and 87 top swoop?
86 and 87. Yeah, I would have been there.
Yeah.
We went to El Toro. Arrived at El Toro in 84 during the Olympics. I do remember that, the Los Angeles Olympics. And we were there for 4 years. Two of those, 2 6-month periods, I was overseas with it. We would rotate squadrons in and out to Japan, to Westpac, in defense of, or in preparation to defend South Korea at that time.
Okay.
So that's how that works.
What is top swoop?
What?
He says top swoop. What is that?
Maybe that was a call sign of somebody. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe that was his name.
Can you ask Hawkeye
Yeah.
how he feels about the Marines taking over the A-10 Warthog for close air support missions, since the Air Force wants to get rid of them? Why would you ever get rid of the A-10? That thing is, as a combat engineer in the Army, there is no better sound in the universe than an A-10 coming to your rescue.
Well, the A-10 was designed for tank columns, coming through the Fulda Gap in Europe. it's designed, it's a gun, and the airplane is built around a gun. That's how it's designed. The pilot sits in a titanium bathtub because it's designed to take hits. Okay, it's got a wonderful the A-10 that I knew had a wonderful system of being able to slew to a radar signature and immediately put fire down upon it, something that was tracking it or actually had it locked up. But it's a slow airplane.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think speed is life in the modern world.
Sure.
Speed is life, and that's probably why. Now, and again, for 20 years, I really haven't been involved with the evolution
Sure.
of how aviation and how wars are to be fought. So,
No, that's a valid point. I haven't been involved in I think I joined the Army in '94 and was pretty much immediately taken out of commission because of my accident. So yeah, this is all old intel. Reminiscing of these stories is old intel. Top Swoop was the guy's name, so I don't know if you ever met him or not.
No, I did not.
And then
he may have been running F-18 simulators.
Okay.
And I was flying
simulator for different
different.
planes.
Right.
That's fair. That's a fair statement. I know what an A-10 is, but can you give more details about how it works?
It's a 30 millimeter cannon in the nose of a straight wing, and it puts down.
It gets its name Warthog because of the sound it makes when that front Gatling goes off.
Exactly.
It sounds Rick. So when we were out in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, apparently the A-10s are all run by the Air Force. And we would do our bivouacs and all of that stuff. And they would come and they would practice doing what they did based around what we were doing on the ground. And
that's close air support. Now, again, the Air Force supports the Army. The Marine Corps is done in-house. Marine Corps supports
the Marine Corps. Sure.
Yeah, so that's the difference. But again, you have close air support being provided by rotary wing as well.
Right.
Yeah, you have Cobras. Again, in the Army, you have Apaches, etc. So
yeah, going right back to the very end, Quantico Marine Corps Warfighting Center. I remember, and I don't know if I don't know how many years you're sworn to secrecy and whatnot, but I remember you would always tease, you wouldn't believe what we're working on over there at the Warfighting Center. You would say stuff like, you're not that far away from Star Wars. We're not that far away.
Well, again, Aaron, I always say, if one person can think of it, think of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
If one person can think of it, another man can build it. Think Jules Verne.
Sure.
The
nuclear submarine. That guy is crazy.
Right. Yeah, that'll never happen.
What fantasy.
So yeah. We're seeing it today. And we're seeing it in the drones. It started with unmanned vehicles that we had.
Yeah.
Unmanned aerial vehicles. And now it's turned into drones have changed the art of warfare just as much as the machine gun changed the art of warfare.
Sure. And I mean, and now we're, with the age of AI and, AI and drones, like this is a whole new universe. Like the first time Trump was president, when he took that little tiny drone and took out that terrorist leader, just like, they could be anywhere now. So we're in a whole new world. All right, so let's move past that.
Thank you.
We've retired from the Marine Corps. We've moved to Northwestern PA, the homeland that you had invested in.
Let me just interrupt you. That's for your audience.
Sure.
Aaron never told me that we were going to talk about these kinds of things. I thought we were going to talk about car wax, man.
Sure. No, I did set him up, but as you guys know, we've kind of turned a direction on Curmudgeon's Corner, where I kind of really want to get to know stories outside of the detailing universe. But we are gonna at the end, like, I'm trying to tie this back into.
Because I was going to say, FEMA was a great, SEMA rather, was a great. That was a great time. It was. The way I look back on it, it was a great one-day experience. I had to do 5 times. I mean, it's unbelievable.
If you guys only knew what we have endured for the last, it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So the last 5 days have just been an absolute emotional roller coaster for the two of us. It's fantastic.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We can fast forward all if you want. I mean, it's going on 9 o'clock. So we put an hour into the books. So I appreciate that. I know that we're both on fumes. You're on more fumes than I am.
Well, you wanted to know. You started to say something about you wanted to get to know the people that you're talking to in stories. Okay, so
I mean, as a kid, like my whole formative. Is that the right word? Formative years was based formative. Thank you. Formative. My formative years were all based around you being a Marine, right? Like that was the way there was. The head of the
great
house.
Santini.
The great Santini. I have that book. I've read it many times. I have identified with that book a great many times. I will say that. Listen. I'll say this, and this is a fair statement. As a 50-something-year-old, and looking back at our relationship growing up, I've often said to myself, here's a man, XO of a squadron, that can literally command 500 Marines. 500 Marines can command 500 Marines with the sound of clearing his throat. And then he comes home to 2 yard apes that question everything and don't listen to anything he has to say. I can see how that might be a little bit testing. That could vex you just a little bit. So I get it. I understand that that especially me. Eric was a little bit more, I would say, in sync to your views. I mean, he had, if you remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but when in California, when you walked into his room, there were posters of Marine snipers and missiles from Boeing and Lockheed, radar systems all over his wall. And he was all conference, all state linebacker. He was a monster of a football player. And then you walk one room over and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and RoboCop and comic books and just everything I would imagine that you're just like, oh, what have I done wrong with this one? So I get it. I get it, and it's deserved. But this is the point. I could never, ever be and do what I do if it wasn't for you, Dad. I think that you have taught me. You've taught me a sense of pride. You've taught me a sense of morality. I remember saying, you saying to me, integrity is what one does when no one else is looking. That's the definition of integrity. And those are words that I live by. And I'd like you to know in front of, the 5 people that are watching, having you as a father is truly a sense of pride for me. And that there are so many people that don't get to have what I have, having a father like you that basically had enough interest in me to make sure I didn't turn out to be such a complete jagoff.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Aaron, and I would point out I didn't wear my waterproof mascara. Okay, so,
Rick Smith says that I'm
yeah,
too sensitive.
yeah. But let me just, I certainly you're in the moment, and you just have to make the decisions that you make. It's I will freely admit that I did not make always good decisions or always good counsel for my sons. That you react to what you see, you react to what's happening at the moment. And me being gone, again, that's the sacrifice that we don't often talk about when we talk about the military, is the sacrifice of the family. What's the hardest job in the world? It's a Marine wife is the hardest job in the world, because when it comes time to pack up your trash and move out and go for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or at one point I went 13 months unaccompanied to Okinawa and left the family behind. Who has to take care of that family? Who has to nurture those children? The greatest moment.
Not to interrupt you, but also we're talking about when you did that. I was in kindergarten, so that was
first go.
Yeah, that was in the 80s. So there's no cell phones, there's no instant communication, there's no
Right.
Facebook, there's none of that. I remember when you would call home, like every whatever it was, there would be an echo because the conversation had to be relayed through an operator in Hawaii.
Right.
Not to
Right.
interrupt you, but like
Yeah.
it's not you have to. The context is. It wasn't just like, hey, we can be in constant communication like it is now. It is.
You may or may not remember this, but we used to correspond via tapes. Your mother we had a little tape recorder, and she would tape conversations with the boys, or you might say something to me, and well, here's one of the tapes I get, and it starts with Eric going, "Dad, there's like 1,000 problems out there, and these math is really getting to me, so it was that kind of, those kinds of things. But I want to relate one thing to you. Probably one of the most pride-filled moments that I had was in Quantico. It was our last tour. You two guys were in high school. You were running with a bunch of there was a wild bunch up on Officer Hill there, and there were different things. And one night, you guys were getting ready to go out, and I just had this gut feeling, this premonition that this is not going to be a good night for you, Ted. And I
remember this.
And I asked you. I said, out of respect for me, would you not go out tonight? And you both said, reluctantly, I might add. But you both said okay and stayed. Now you probably snuck out the window out the back of that, but at least you said.
I never snuck out, but Eric always did.
Oh, yeah.
And he would rap on my window because you would lock up, and he would rap on my window, and he would like, "Hey, can you let me in?" And I'm just like, "You beat the piss out of me on a regular basis. Why would I let you in? Because if you don't, I'm gonna beat the piss out of you again."
Right. But that was a good moment. That was a good moment for me as a father to not have to argue it, not have to demand it, but to have the respect of my sons that said, okay, yeah, we'll honor your request. That was a good moment.
If I can point and counterpoint, I that isn't the story that I thought you were going to say.
Oh,
because I don't remember that at all. What I do remember is having conversations with you, like, and this goes back to the idea of you being able to command a room with the clearing of your throat. I remember you would say sometimes, I would always ask, well, why? I don't want you guys going out tonight. Why? And he would be like, because I'm your father and I said so. And that was just like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? But to you, it's just like, how did I get to the point where I can command 500 grown men and I can't command these?
well, I'm sorry about that, because you were probably old enough to reason with at the time. I just wasn't smart enough to make the logical argument. But having said that, I see today parents trying to reason with their 2-year-old or their 3-year-old to do things and get them
Right.
to get them to do things. And again, this is just me. That child is not capable of reasonable logic of why they shouldn't throw a tantrum in the restaurant.
Sure.
Okay, they need to be taken out to the car and shown that that's not acceptable behavior. My horses, the horses that we have,
Sure.
we encourage good behavior, and we discourage bad behavior, and that's all it is. It's not. I'm not trying to be logical with my horses.
Right.
I'm just saying that, hey, we're not gonna do that.
Right.
Okay, but we're gonna do this.
And it'd be better for everybody.
Right, and if that would be, yeah.
Sure. No,
So,
you know,
yes.
having Jacob, growing up with Jacob the last, 20 years and going to all of his sports activities. And I can't tell you, I don't even know the names to rat you out, but I remember there were a couple of parents that were just completely owned by their kids.
Right.
And as a result, they were just the most unruly kids. I mean, there was a point to
And unhappy.
the mom was just like, I can't do this anymore, and she got up and went and sat in her car while the other two kids just
Right. Those children are not happy. Again, it's real easy to be a Monday morning quarterback or
Sure.
a father, but children need parameters.
Yeah,
And if they have the parameters, then they're much more happy.
I agree.
I think.
Sure. All right, so let's transition. We did the Marines. Do you really even want to wade into like post-Marine what you did?
Hey, you own me. Okay, you own me for another 55 minutes, I'm told.
Okay. All right. So, all right, then let's do it. Let's dive right in. So after the Marine Corps, you retired to Northwestern PA. I know that you have the dream in your head to build your mom's dream house.
Mom's dream house?
My mom's dream house on the property, your wife. How did you transition from being a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps, fighter pilot, to construction? How did that happen?
Again, you're in the moment, and you don't necessarily plan for it to happen. We had decided, when I say we, Karen and I particularly, but the family as a whole, decided that, okay, we're getting out of the Marine Corps. We're coming back to Newcastle because we own this little piece of property. We didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't have a house on the property, but it was just kind of an adventure. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make it work. I suppose it's the same thing as in the 1849 of the men and families that decided, well, let's go to Oregon and make it work.
Yeah.
They don't know what's at the other end. I didn't know what's at the other end. I'm home here. I'm home, and I'm writing the resumes for middle management, sending them out to. There's not a lot of industry around here. I had decided that I did not want to pursue aviation, commercial aviation, because I didn't want to be away from the family any more than I'd already been. If I could have gotten the milk run from here to Youngstown to Dayton, Ohio to Akron and back every day, that would really get boring. But it would have been an aviation job. But I did not want to go to Dallas, wait overnight, deadhead back, whatever. I didn't want to climb the commercial corporate ladder. So in the interim, while I'm making these resumes out and interviewing for a couple of jobs, the lady in my church says, "Hey, there's a contractor who's working on our house. He doesn't have a lot of help, but maybe while you're waiting, you could fill in. You might want to be." So I called this gentleman, and yeah, I got hired. I go out. 10 years later, we go from 3 guys in a pickup truck
I remember 10.
to almost 50. To almost 50 guys in a fleet of trucks, and we're working for Bell Telephone at that time. It's Verizon now, and just a unbelievable growth in the company to do that. And you're asking me, how do you go from being this guy to being this guy? Well, you learn a new trade, but you apply the skills that you have, management skills, back planning skills, logistical skills, all those kinds of things. You apply those to what you're doing now. And that's what I think really made that a success. And then I went out on my own as far as a construction manager, again, using the same, back planning, what has to be done, what's the sequence of having it done, what are the consequences of changing it, all those kinds of things play into that. And that's what I
So
think.
let's dovetail into what you are currently doing. You own your own business, Cornerstone Construction Management. Obviously,
There's no website. Don't be trying to look it up. There's no website. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all word of mouth. He's like one of the most successful construction management guys here in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and it's there. He has no website. He has no nothing. You are truly the epitome of the entrepreneurial spirit. Hopefully, some of that trickled down onto me, which is why we're here at Phoenix. The inspiration that you have been for me. Okay.
One of the great times that I've experienced is when I talked to Aaron. He's unhappy in his job with Brand X, and I said, "Well, let's start your own company. Come out this weekend. We'll sit down. We'll work on a business plan. We'll figure out how much we have to make in order to make this work and that work, etc." And that was the greatest planning weekend that I can remember having done that.
That was fire.
Start.
That was again yeah. So the origin story of Phoenix, where Spittler has been putting the idea in my head for years. When are you going to do it for yourself? When are you going to do it for yourself? When are you going to do it for yourself? And then turning to you and was like, Dad, when am I going to do it for myself? And you were like, come on out, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Again, you've always,
and it's been exciting.
It has been.
See, life is exciting.
Yeah, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for sure.
Life is dangerous, but it's exciting and fun. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Corey just said, Aaron, you've said that so many times. It's awesome to hear your dad say it.
What's that?
What we just talked about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Do you think you're reliant?
I certainly hope not. It's possible, but I certainly hope not. About hour 3 after the apple juice really starts to kick in, who knows what comes out of my mouth. So here we are. You've been doing, how long have you been doing Cornerstone Construction?
I started that job in October of 2000.
All right. So you've been doing
25 years.
Been the captain of your own ship for 25 years.
That's correct.
And from what I understand, you're getting ready to wind it down.
Well,
officially, unofficially.
I'd like to think I'm on an off ramp. Yes. I have not been taking any new clients, except for a friend that asked me if he would. Okay. But I haven't been taking any new clients for the last 2 years. I've been finishing up the jobs that have been on the books and making that happen.
So what exactly are you going to do? Like, if you were to ever officially shut it down, what do you want to do next? What's the next? What's the next chapter of?
I'd like to write. I like to do some writing. I think it's therapeutical, but I'd like to be able to let my grandchildren. That's one of the greatest gifts that the Lord gives you is it talks about being able to see your children's children. And so I'd like them to be able to know me when they become grandparents and remember back when, and so there'll be some writing. I'd like to do that, and that takes a lot of time, quite
Yeah.
frankly. We've started a new church. That is taking some time. That's taking a lot of time, the organizing of that. I've taken a lot of things for granted over the last 20 years at our old church where we were, of just things like, who does the bulletin? Who makes the bulletin for the worship service in the morning? Well, somebody has to do that. And to organize that. So I'm trying to use the skill set that I have and organizing that and putting things in place and getting the committees to work, the backbone of all that. I like to work with my hands. I'd like to work with my legs too, but right now,
after this week, we're going to give the legs,
yeah, we're giving the legs a break,
vacation.
But I like to work with my hands. So I have a workshop and that sort of thing. I like to hunt. I like to fish, and so that's kind of what I have in mind. Things that I haven't really been able to take time for because, it may sound trite, but when I take on a project, I feel like I felt in the Marine Corps that I am responsible for everything that happens or fails to happen
Amen.
on that project.
Yeah.
So that's why it's real hard to tear yourself away and go on a vacation when you're in the middle of a construction project. And I've had some really, really good ones. I can't think that I've really had bad ones. I mean, there's been some that have not come to fruition, but it is not because of anything we've done or not done. And I have to tell you, and at one point I had 5 people working for me. I had a company that was down there. We had 5, and that kind of all evolved and changed, etc. And so now it's just me, and it's a lot easier for me to plan and execute and not have to make payroll, etc. Because I'm just myself.
Sure.
It's just a lot easier to take this.
Sure.
I don't have.
You got rid of that office, and you can all do it from your home office here. 2 things that you just kind of sparked a memory. The first one was from as early as I can remember. I remember you saying to me, in regards to everything that you just said, any job worth doing is worth doing right. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Do it or don't do it. Like either do it or don't do it. But half-assing it isn't an option. Right. And that was that you instilled that in me as a very, very young age. And for those of you playing at home that don't know, I am the 3PL for the House of Rags International. So everything that the House of Rags has been doing internationally with Katiba and Yum and So Clean and all that, all of their products come to my warehouse first, and I sort it. Half of it goes to Chicago. The other half, I'm the sole responsibility of putting that stuff on Amazon. And this past week at SEMA, I'm proud to announce that we've been doing such a good job for the House of Rags that we have now earned their domestic Amazon stuff as well. So not only are we doing international, but we're doing all things domestic, anything to do with Amazon. And that's, again, a real testimony to you. And I remember talking to the man behind the curtain, and it was just basically like, I want to be a good steward of you, your time, your money, and your product. I treat them with like it's my own product because they've instilled their trust in me, and that work ethic and responsibility comes 100%.
It's interesting, Aaron, that you say that. I what comes to mind is, why did I have to say that to you so often?
Because I did, because it is exactly right. You have to be. I was not oriented. You know for a fact that scholastics was not in my wheelhouse. Sports was not in my wheelhouse. For me, academia was a social experiment, and athletics was a social experiment. I wasn't interested in either one of those. Right? You remember when Eric was on at Quantico, just a brute of a human being, and I was on the sideline, and I would put on the football gear because I played left out and right. What was it? Left bench and right out. I would use this. I would find out where the sun was, the position of the sun, and I would get my shadow to look exactly like RoboCop, and I'd walk around on the sideline, dead or alive, you're coming with me. Your move, creep. You know what I mean? Because I had no interest in being a football player, but I loved, the social aspect of it all. So yeah, I could see you having to repeat that 1,000 times to me because my brain was never, ever interested in anything other than flaking off somewhere. So anyway, all of that being said, here we are at the end of your first SEMA experience. And this is what I think probably why everybody tuned in, because we teased it on the thumbnail, the SEMA review. After Eddie and Jamie called me, I had no intention on going to SEMA this year. I was going to fly under the radar. I was just going to do my own thing. And then they called me during one of their live streams and was like, Birdman's going to Vegas. And, oh, man. So I called my dad and I said, hey, Dad, how'd you like to hang out with me in Las Vegas, of all places? A place that neither one of us have any interest in being, because we don't gamble. We don't do all the things that Vegas is known for. But we are foodies. What are your thoughts on, I mean, we don't have to get into the comedy of errors that was this.
Oh, wasn't it?
This whole week.
Errors, it was, yeah.
This whole week was everything the moment that we got to Vegas, that's when everything turned sideways.
Even before that.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, the flights were
nice. It was easy.
Yeah, but we started gate 1 and we have to make a transition to gate 50 and walk all the way through the airport.
In my dad's defense, we did start the week at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's right.
We started because we had to get the red eye, because I know that we have an obligation to be on the SEMA show floor. SEMA is Tuesday through Friday. And I had no intention of spending any extra time that I needed to in Vegas. I didn't want to be in Vegas. So we decided we were going to fly in Tuesday morning, shoot over to the convention center, do our, song and dance and pony show, and then check into the hotel and go to dinner and do all that.
Well, Detroit, when we got to Detroit, if you remember, we had like an hour and 15-minute layover. No problem. Except we just barely made it because of the long walk.
That's right. Yeah.
So
we had to walk from one terminal, the far side of one terminal, to the far side of the other terminal. It couldn't be like, you're going to be leaving from terminal 13. No, it's going to be like, you're leaving from terminal 88. Oh man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was Tuesday. We got to when we went to the booth. We hung out at the booth. We left the booth, went to the hotel, checked in. We go upstairs. Our room, of course, is at the far end of the hall. So at this point, we've already walked, 50 miles throughout the day. We get to the far end of the hallway at our hotel, and the door wouldn't open. It didn't react. It didn't register at all. And so I said, Dad, wait here. I'm going to go back down to the front desk. The elevators, by the way, are key activated. You can't go up the elevators without having your key. So I get to the front desk. I have to wait in line. Finally, I get there and so the key's not working. And she's like, what is it doing? I said, it's not doing anything. But the elevator works just fine. And she goes, oh, your battery's dead. We'll send engineering up right away. So then I go back up to the room, and 25 minutes later, we're just sitting on the floor at this point, and we've tried to get housekeeping to help us out, and they can't do anything about it. And sure enough, I guess the battery that monitors the keyed lock was dead, and they had to fix the whole thing. So that was day 1. Oh, but what did we do for dinner that night? Sicky's Garage.
Is that when we went to Sicky's?
We went to Sicky's Garage on Tuesday night. Sicky's Garage, this was because of Fred from Glovebox. We had, I think there was 16 of us, right? There was a party of 16 of just friends. and people that I've interacted with on the show, and colleagues. Just it was the best time. Brad and Fred from Glovebox. Adrian was there. Everybody loves Adrian. I have to say that Rick Smith and Papa Smurf were not there for whatever reasons. Okay.
I would say that there was a tangible camaraderie at the show. I mean, again, I made fun of the SEMA show simply because cars are not my bag, but I could see the team inside of Glovebox or THOR, and the interaction and the mutual support was what really was kind of noticeable. Everybody trying to help anybody that had a problem or anybody that needed encouragement, etc. That's what was showed. And then we just went to dinner and did the same thing, except on a social level.
Sure. And Keith was there. I think the best part that I love, what I love the most about these things, and again, I'm probably the worst person to promote Phoenix. I'm easily the worst person to try to hawk my wares. I'm so much more interested in the personal connections that I've had with people, and this would be the fourth time that I've got to be able to spend time with, like Key, for example. Like I often, these are the only places that I can interact with people like you that I talk to on a every other weekly basis on Curmudgeon's Corner. But to be able to put the name and the face and go to dinner and break bread and just have a hug and talk. For me, that is what truly energizes me. Like I unfortunately, I think the chemical side is a means to the end of being able to hang out with you guys for me. And I'm glad that you were able to see that, Dad, from an outsider's point of view. Because I think that's really truly awesome. And again, I'm going to go back to Craig and Jody from Mile Deep. They're a UK brand. Never heard of them before. Never knew of anything about it before. But there was an immediate kinship with both of those guys. And I would say that my time at the THOR booth, I spent the majority of that time hanging out with those two guys and just talking and socializing and sharing their successes as a chemical company and their failures as a chemical company, and my successes and my failures, and being able to say, hey, this is what worked for me. I was able to put those guys in contact with Fred from Glovebox. So hopefully you Glovebox people will be getting some Mile Deep stuff soon. Just excellent people. And at the end of SEMA, when Jamie was going around and saying, can you summarize, what was up the most, what was your most memorable experience here at SEMA? And it's, for me, being able to hang out with you guys. That's really what's in it for me. I had a guy that was looking for me Thursday, couldn't find me on Thursday, changed his plans and came back to the booth on Friday just because he wanted to get a picture with me. I don't even know what to say to that. Like, it's the most humbling experience when you can bring joy to somebody else's life, for me. But I just stole your segue. I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm good.
So overall, what was your favorite part of SEMA?
Arriving back here at today.
What's that?
Arriving back here today.
Yeah,
that was mine.
Exactly.
I think that there was, certainly for me, it was an education. I was not aware of how many different kinds of products that are all focused on the same thing of bringing protection and color and for the lack of a better word, detail to automobiles. I mean, I just wasn't aware of how big that industry is out there. So that was an appreciation for me. I guess that's the biggest thing. I mean, I walked my fanny off, just going around and looking at the different things, and it just seemed like every other booth was the kind of the same thing, and yet it was a little bit different. It had a little different approach to it, and it was international. That's another
Yeah.
thing that I thought was worth mentioning. So yeah, I go back to cars are not my bag.
I'll be honest with you. That was the most intimidating realization for me this year at SEMA. Just looking around and knowing how saturated this industry is. And like, so what do we do as a company? What do we do to separate ourselves from the herd? I've always kind of been the kind of person personally to say, do what you enjoy. If you like this product and it works for you, use it, right? Like that's who I am. Like, I'm not trying I don't want to steal you from something that you love to do and make but of course I want you to use my product. And that's why we take so much pride. Any job worth doing is worth doing right. That's why we take so much pride in the products that we do make. But it was really intimidating to me this year to just, because I mean, we were in West Hall, which is like the big boys table, versus North Hall, which is the first time, basically the very first time you want to do a booth at SEMA, you start in North Hall. It's smaller, it's quieter, there's not nearly as much traffic. But this year we were in West Hall, and when I say that we were in West Hall, that means that you're in with the big dogs. You look up at the ceiling of the convention center and you see all the big names, Griot's Garage and G Technique and all those guys. And it's really intimidating, especially when you see yourself with 1,000 other smaller companies. And I really, at one point, I had I felt kind of intimidated. I felt intimidated by just like, man, I am in a sea of a million fish. How does Phoenix
survive?
Yeah.
It's interesting here, because from my perspective, I grew up with, I think turtle wax is the cutting stage, man. Turtle wax is the product that you want to try and put on your 1955 Chevy.
I remember, everybody wants to know like why I love, like, my favorite product that I have in my lineup is Glossom Wax. I love my Glossom Wax, and they want to know why. And I said, I think it might be because I remember washing a car with my dad, and we had a tin of turtle wax that had the sponge in it, and it had the plastic thing that sat down over the top of it. And we'd put it on and let it flash. It would turn like white hazy, and then we'd buff it off. And I remember as a little kid, I think we were in Springfield, washing that car with you.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, you do that with the Pay It Forward campaign. Your brand is you, and you are the brand. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate that. Your overall experience with SEMA was shock and awe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my overall experience is I could not, it was hard for me to comprehend how big and how many different companies, countries were represented there. And again, I didn't even go to some of the other outbuildings or look at some of the other things, but it was just it was a great like I said, it was a great one-day experience. I had to do 5 times. That's all I can tell you.
So Tuesday we went to Sicky's Garage. Wednesday we had we went to the brewery. It was called what's the name of the Beer Zombie. All right, so the name of the place is Beer Zombie, which if you say it really fast, it's beers on me. which was that's a marketing genius right there. So the House of Rags hosted a little brewery party, and that was a lot of fun.
But then Thursday night.
Oh, well, I was going to say they ran out of basically it's just a brewery, and then like there's a food truck that parks themselves out in the parking lot, and you can go and get some, from what I understand, really banging rice bowls. But the guy was so overwhelmed and ran out of food because I don't know if we weren't really there to eat at first, but then we decided that we were going to get something, and he was already sold out at that point. So we ended up, Dad and I ended up leaving, and we went back to the hotel, and we had pizza. The very first time that I've had pizza in 4 months. By the way, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I fell off the wagon. I had burgers, I had pizza, I had French fries, like I hope Tracy's not watching this, but I had all the things that I'm not supposed to eat, and I am paying for it. I have had nonstop heartburn for 4 days straight. It's bananas. Let's see here, Aaron. While things may be different, as my dad owned a shop and I grew up in the industry, I remember days with him waxing our cars. He's gone, but those times remain in my heart. Thanks, Conway. Appreciate you sharing that. But then, as you were saying, so there was a place that Papa Smurf and Biobombs and I discovered last year, and we wanted to rediscover it again this year. We had 10 people with us this time, right? I think there was a table of 10. Yeah,
at least, yeah.
There's this
Australian.
That's right, the Australians. Bill and his wife, I think her name's Kelly. What a fantastic! So we went to Sushi Nico, which is basically it's an all-you-can-eat sushi experience, and you don't even have to order anything. You could just say like, "Bring us your best," and I mean, plates after plates after plates just swarm the table, and you eat the most incredible sushi. And then, of course, once the first wave is over, then you can start being more selective. Oh, I want the pork belly. Oh, I want this. Oh, I want that. So good. And then we pretended it was Christian's birthday, and so the entire restaurant goes dark, and then they start clapping and cheering, and they bring out these ice cream balls. It's like ice cream with some sort of almost like a rice wonton wrap around the ice cream. And
the Japanese version of baked Alaska.
So we all sang happy birthday to Christian. We just had so much fun. So much fun. And that was Thursday. And then Friday, we were supposed to go to Caesar's buffet with Thor. Thor was doing another Caesar's buffet like we did last year. But at that point, my dad and I were smoked. We were just smoked. So we decided to go back to Sicky's Garage that we did on Tuesday these burgers were so stupid amazing. I mean, they had probably close to 50 different varieties of burgers that you could, from like, there's the grilled cheeseburger, which is basically 2 grilled cheeses with this Wagyu beef patty in. But that's what Keith got the first year. Keith got the grilled cheese Wagyu. I ended up getting it was called Wild Willie's, which is like basically Texas toast, beef brisket, the burger, fried onion straws, and this Willie's sauce. Oh my gosh! Honestly,
we went there primarily though, Aaron, because of logistics. It was close to the airport. It was close to where we had to turn the car in.
Yeah, it's true.
And so it made it real simple. We weren't driving around in traffic all night. So
yeah, the occasional detailer, he was there. Yeah, so I guess since we're going to probably wrap this up because we're both pretty tired. But I just wanted to let you know that there's been like 3 of my most proudest moments being at Phoenix, and it's always been around you. The first time you came to the warehouse, the second time you came to the warehouse and we detailed your truck together, and then you go into SEMA with me. The first two was a pride because you got to see me doing the chemical aspect of Phoenix. And then this week for me, you got to see me with my peers,
The business aspect.
and how others in this industry view me as a company and as the leader of my company. That was really, really special to me and really important to me, that I wanted you to be able to see that maybe some of those things of the last 50 years actually stuck with me, and your teachings and your just
Well, Aaron, it's easy. It's, you want your children to be successful, and I'm very proud of you that you are. And hey, I love you, man. That's what it goes to. That's where it is.
I
That's
love
where
you
it
too,
is.
Dad. So anyway, I think that's probably a really good place to wrap this one up. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for being a part of it.
Well,
Thank you for
I'm honored to be able to go.
allowing basically this whole thing happening was because you supported me from the beginning, and I could never have ever dreamed of doing this without your help and your support.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go off screen real fast, and I'm going to go back over to the computer. I gotta grab this, and we will do the rundown of how we end up in every episode of Curmudgeons. Appreciate all you guys being out here on a Saturday night. You could be anywhere in the world, especially after SEMA. We are smoked. I don't know if you can hear it in our voices, but we're just smoked. All right. So the Phoenix Rise from the Ashes campaign is in full swing. We are going to be today is the 8th. We have another community guest next week, or excuse me, in 2 weeks, and then after that we start the nominations of the Pay It Forward campaign. Jamie the cleaner is going to be joining us on the 29th. So we're going to be doing 3 episodes this month, and then we'll be doing 1 episode every single Saturday until Christmas, so that we can get as many nominations out there and get the Pay It Forward in full swing. So you can send any kind of physical donations that you would like to Phoenix E.O.D. 404 Bloomfield Drive, Suite 1, West Berlin, New Jersey 08091. Please use the QR code in the top corner to help us ship Hope. We have so many items that we need to ship that we cannot do it without your support. So if you can, $5, $10, $15, whatever you can give to help us accomplish our goals to make the Pay It Forward campaign even a bigger campaign than last year. If you'd like to be a guest on Curmudgeon's Corner, or if you'd like to contact the show, you can email me or the team at thecorner@phoenixeod.com. As soon as Eileen gives me the controls of the Instagram page, we'll be posting all that stuff to keep you guys informed on what we're doing on the corner. Suicide prevention and crisis counseling resources. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts, seek help from a professional and call 988. The United States' first nationwide 3-digit mental health crisis hotline, 988, will connect callers with trained mental health counselors. You can also text HOME to 741-741 in the US and Canada to reach a crisis text line. You can also go to www.apa.org/topics/crisis-hotlines to be contacted with anything that you may be encountering, be it physical and mental, substance abuse. Get help. You are not in this alone. There are resources to help you get the help that you need. Give a special shout out to Adrian, our West Coast distribution, IamDetailAF.com, and our Southeastern distribution, Tim from ShineYourLightDetailing.com/store. And then, of course, the House of Rags. Everywhere you are, go to thehouseofrags.com. You can use No Direction 10 to save yourself some cheddar. And I think that is about it. I think that's about it. Be kind. You have no idea the battles that someone is facing. And Dad, I just want you to know that I love you, and I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much for being a part of Curmudgeon.
Oh, wait, I live here.
Yeah, well,
You know, what can I say?
and we'll see. Yeah, I held you against your will. You had no choice. I said, if you don't do my show, I'm just going to play loud music outside your bedroom door. So anyway, we'll see you guys back here on the corner in 2 weeks. And appreciate you guys coming out on a Saturday night. Much love, guys. Talk to you.